Okay, I have titled this video The Terrible Talmud because that's how I actually feel about it. The Talmud is to Judaism what the Church Fathers is to Christianity. It is a collection of alleged experts on Scripture who, when you actually read them, prove to be idiots. But they manage to get the reputation of being experts and holy and scholarly because, frankly, people don't read them. And so those who are religious and have therefore no discernment whatsoever to tell the difference between righteousness and legalism, which is characterized as harlotry in the Bible. Legalism is considered to be harlotry, spiritual harlotry. So that the religious types can hawk the church fathers if they're Christian religious types, or if they're Jewish religious types, they can hawk the Talmud. And most people, because they're really disinterested in the Bible anyway, don't bother to check all these claims about alleged wisdom in either the church fathers or the Talmud. The same thing is true of the Quran, and in fact the same kind of abuse of Scripture is in the Quran, the Hadith, which is the equivalent to the Talmud for the Muslims, and in the Talmud, which consists of the Mishnah, which is a set of commentaries before 100 AD, as you'll see this guy explaining here. I can't get the mouse to work. There we go. I'm having a problem with the mouse. The Talmud consists of two parts, really two versions of two parts. The first one of which is the Mishnah, which is rabbinic commentary on the Old Testament prior to 100 AD, as you see highlighted there in blue. And then something called the Gemara, which is commentary on commentary. The rabbis since 100 AD commenting on it, and it's a wide body of so-called work. Actually, it's a wide body of ineptitude, incompetence, masking itself as being wisdom because it's so convoluted and stupid. Nobody understands it, and therefore they think because they don't understand it, it must be wisdom. It's not wisdom, it's idiocy. Just like the church fathers is idiocy. Now, I'm not asking you to take my word for it, that's why I'm making this video. There are a number of really stupid sources on Talmud on the internet that don't work, or they're incomplete, or they're just commentaries on the Talmud rather than the actual text itself. And so the rest of this video is going to be a kind of survey, and the irony here is I have to use two anti-Semitic sources to show you how you can better navigate and understand what the Talmud says. And one of these anti-Semitic sources is used by none other than Tyndale. This guy that you see on screen is named David Brewer. He's very, from what I can tell, he's very pro-Israel. And this is one of his sites at Tyndale. You know, Tyndale, the Bible publisher. Okay, but his other main site, to which I have subscribed, and I recommend you do the same thing. I don't know why the internet is so slow. It's called rabbinictraditions.com, and I cannot show you the text and how you use it because there are copyright restrictions. Okay? But you'll see in about the middle upper part of the screen here, see if I can get it to highlight, these are the main categories of Talmud. And if you were to click on them, like I can probably do this much, if you were to click on one section, You then get the subdivisions of the section, and in the right-hand side of the screen, I'm sorry, the computer is very, very slow for no reason, of course. It's only because I'm making a video. If you were to click on the middle of the screen, where I'm trying to click on Nezikin damages, you would get a change in the table of contents. But of course I'm not getting that because my computer looks like it's frozen up. So I'll have to do all this over again. So I'll take a break now and I'll reboot. Okay, we're back. The problem with the computer was the fact that Adobe was trying to download an update at the very same time I was talking. So I've now disabled that. Hopefully it'll be easier now. As you saw when I got hung up, I was trying to access what you see on screen here is Nezikin damages, one of the divisions of the Talmud. And I cannot show you the text because there are copyright rules. But I can explain something of what you will see if you go to this site, and I really suggest, if you're interested in Talmud, that you subscribe to this guy. As you can see in the lower left-hand corner, for only about $40, you can subscribe to it for life, which I really recommend, because this is the easiest way to access the Talmud in both Hebrew and English that there is on the internet. It's even better than the Sonsino Talmud collection, and this is taken actually from the Sonsino Talmud, but it's not just the Sonsino Talmud. As you can see here, highlighted now in blue, you have the Babylonian Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud, the Tosefta, and the Mishnah, all available to access at once. And again, I wish I could show it to you, but there are copyright restrictions. If you were to type a word in here, where it says contain word and also word, you can type in any string you want in English or Hebrew using Unicode for the Hebrew, which I can't read Unicode. It drives me nuts. I have to learn how to read it. Or you can cite a specific book, or you can use the word, and you can add a word, or you can specify a Bible chapter and verse like there. Okay? And then you would click on this search, where it says search in, and it will give you all the references, and they will be highlighted in yellow so that you can read them. And I was able to do 137-page distillation of all the Gentile references in the Talmud, and all of the shepherd references in the Talmud, because what I'm still trying to do is find where my pastor and other pastors claim that the shepherds in Luke 2 were actually ostracized from the temple. Okay? And I've not been successful finding proof of that. I came up with something close, but it's not really good enough to qualify. So anyway, this is how you search in the Talmud, and I recommend you do it, because you cannot imagine how vile the commentary is and how apostate the rabbis are until you read it yourself. They like to tell you that it's hard to read the Talmud and that you have to be really smart to read it. That's a bunch of baloney. Okay, they're just trying to do that to make you respect something that you wouldn't respect if you just read it like a human being. The rabbis make a total travesty of the Mosaic Law. The Mosaic Law is one of the most beautiful laws ever written in the universe. It's gorgeous, it's funny, it's witty, it's a sort of a joke on pagan law. God wrote the whole thing. The whole Mosaic Law is a kind of satire about how human works don't work. But you won't get that if you read the stupid rabbis in the Talmud, because they were too dumb to live. They took it seriously. And they thought that all that washing and that rituals and the cutting of the animal and the sacrifices, that they were actually doing something that was a good deed. They call it mitzvot. good deeds. And the major word in the Talmud is merit. That Joseph merited something from God because he took the bones of Jacob. It's all about merit to these idiots. They're no better than the church fathers, and you can see why the church fathers are such idiots. I'm dead serious. You need to know that the mainstream of Judaism, like the mainstream of Christianity, has no clue whatsoever what the Bible says. And now that this stuff it's not in public domain, but it's easily accessed on the internet, so it's not sequestered amongst the elites, and you're getting their spin instead of the truth face to face, go look at it yourself. Now, I was raised both Christian and Jewish. Okay, so I have a vested interest in wanting to support the Talmud. I hate it. Once I found out what it actually said, I hate it. Once I read the Mishnah, I wanted to throw up. Once I read the Church Fathers, I wanted to throw up. Okay? And you will too if you have an ounce of sense when you read it. I would love to prove, point by point, how. But again, this particular website is subject to copyright. So I don't know how much of it I can show on screen other than the titles. The titles, obviously, I can show on screen. Now, this same guy in Stone Brewer, who's really good, also did this, and this is the Tyndale site. He's part of Tyndale, which is very respectable, okay? So you got those two sites that are respectable for searching Talmud. And again, this rabbinic traditions is the best searching of Talmud on the internet. It's even better than the Sonsino Talmud software, which you can buy on CD for about $300, $600 if you want the whole collection. Okay, you cannot get the Tosefta in English anywhere that I know of except here, where you're seeing on screen. Even the Sonsino Talmud collection does not provide the Tosefta in English. Okay? So, these are the two respectable sites for researching the Talmud. I beg you, if you're pro-Talmud especially, go read it and think real hard about whether God would make up such petty laws that have nothing to do with the Mosaic Law. And they actually violate the Bible in a number of places. Okay? Violate it. They make up stories, they make up lies. And everything's merit with them. Take Pepto-Bismol before you read. But these are the two respectable sites. Now, this one, in its introduction, which really surprised me, said that this site right here, comeinhere.com, which has also has a Sonsino Talmud, okay, which you can read and search on. The blue parts of it here are portions of the Talmud that they've actually booked online that you can read. All right? But this site here says they pulled their Talmud from, this site is anti-Semitic. Right here. comeinhere.com, they're anti-Semitic. They've reproduced certain portions of the Talmud. That's the blue part. And the information is accurate as far as the Talmud goes. But the conclusions they draw from it are anti-Semitic, which is wrong. And that's the main reason why I'm making this video. These people here are anti-Semitic. They sponsor this woman who, when you read it, yeah, she's not only a critic of Judaism, she says things about Judaism that are flat untrue. She's mildly anti-Semitic compared to what I'm going to show you before this video ends. Okay, but she is anti-Semitic. They sponsor her. And they allege that it's in order to, foster some kind of, examination of religious tolerance. Baloney. Okay, but what's good about this site, I'm ashamed to say, is that it's the easiest to search Talmud on the internet. I spent a lot of time trying to find these sources. Okay? The one thing that they get right that everybody else seems to forget is that when you're quoting Talmud, you're quoting it by folio number. It's tractate with a number after it that's referring to a section in a folio. A folio is a large piece of paper, so to speak. It's a scroll, really. And it's in certain sections. And so you have to find your tractate. Tractate is like a chapter. Okay, tractate's a fancy name for chapter. And in order to find that, you have to know the folio number. And you can't find that elsewhere. All right? You'll find the quotes designated by folio number. But then you can't find anybody who's organized the Talmud by folio number except these people. Now here, he happens to tell you what the folio is. See? Like for example, I don't know how much of this I can't show that. I can't show that. Wait a minute. I'm going to have to go back. I don't want to violate copyright. These things here will give you numbers that correspond to folio numbers, but you don't know that's what they are. And everywhere else I searched on the internet, even the Jewish sites, they don't organize it by folio number. So you have to go to an anti-Semitic sponsored site in order to get the folio numbers. So then you go to comeinhere.com, which is where Rabbinic Traditions gets the data for the Talmud. Okay? And even the Sonsino Talmud that you can buy on CD for $300 or $600 doesn't have a search engine as good as this. Okay, I got a copy of their manual and it's not that good. It basically you're limited to searching in Hebrew, and you know that's a real muddle because the Hebrew lemmas can mean lots of different words, and you're not going to want to bother with the vowel points. And a lot of times it's not vowel pointed either. Okay? So, and the vowel points differ depending on whose edition it is. So you want to search in English, and then you can look up the Hebrew afterwards. Well, you can't do that with the CD. All right? And so that's part of the problem. And in Bible Works, their Talmud is Rodkinson's, and you can't search on it because it's a stupid CHM file. So what are we stuck with? We're stuck with going to an anti-Semitic website that happens to have some portions of the Talmud that are searchable and online by folio number so you can find them. All right, only the blue parts. But once you find them, then you can go back here and search in this site that's got everything. It's got everything but Rashi's commentary. All right. So here are the two respectable sites. Here's a not respectable site. But it's got good information solely restricted to the Talmud only because they copied it. Okay? And it's really important to read this stuff, especially if you're not familiar with the Hebrew vocabulary. Okay? See, it's got a little glossary here. And you can look up the words. Okay? You got to get your feet wet in this. Especially if you're one of those wannabe Jews who's always saying Yeshua, and you think you're more holy because you're saying Yeshua rather than Jesus. Okay, you better find out what you're into. Because a lot of the people hawking that stuff are in the Talmud, and Talmud's a piece of garbage. It's a useful piece of garbage. All garbage is useful. Church fathers are garbage too. They're useful. But see, you can find out, for example, if you don't know Hebrew already, Zeraim means seeds. That's exactly what it means. Seder means book. Well, more than book, but I'll simplified, that's what it is. Moed means appointments. They're translating it appointed seasons. It's not just appointed seasons. It's appointed times. Okay? See, Beza means, Betza really means egg. And so you get to start to get your head straight on all these terms. And if you're not familiar with the Mosaic Law, this is going to be something of a struggle. Okay? And you know, some of the words are not exactly mistranslated, but they're euphemistically translated. Like this says fast. Ta'anit doesn't mean fast. It means affliction. The affliction. Okay? But that's okay. You'll get to know that as you work with it. But this is where you want to go, commonhere.com. Links to all these sites are going to be in the video description. Okay? Now, one of the things that's useful also about this site, besides the glossary at the bottom, see, here's the glossary, and the fact that they reproduce the Talmud, they're not adding to the text or, you know, screwing around with the text. One of the other things that's useful about this site, in spite of the fact that it's anti-Semitic, okay, is search. It's run by Pico Search, and you can search on strings, you can search on, see, you can search on any word, or all words or exact phrase. You can search it through their own website, but you can also search through the Talmud or the rabbis and supplemental material that they have. This is a very good search engine. Okay, it's really, really helpful. And in fact, like for example, if I wanted to say, we'll do one, because here I'm not worried about the copyright restrictions, because they're the ones that impose them, and they're making this thing available. So let's say I wanted to search on shepherd, and I want to search it just in the Talmud. I click the search button, and then I get 46 sites. And these are locations with a little, you know, part of it is the text. And it's see where it says Sotah 36? Sotah means adulteress. See, it's folio 36. That way you get used to the citations, how they work. See, when it says Tractate Sotah 36a, it's talking about the folio number. But you can't easily find that out on the internet. And they don't organize the material by folio number, as far as I can find, except here, which is really ironic. All right? So then you got all these locations, and this is in a new window, and you got all these locations where you can search on each of the references. Okay, it's very easy to search with this done. You can tell quickly because there's snippets, you know, and therefore find it, you know, find what you're looking for. You see, well, it says 42. I must have spelled it differently this time. Last time it was 46. Okay, so that's this commonhere.com, and that's their search engine. Okay. Okay, which brings you back to the title. You got a Sanhedrin directory. Okay, because that's one of the subdivisions, the Sanhedrin. It's part of a book of damages called Netzikin. Alright, this is Sotah, it's about adulteress. And the thing you got to know is that these names, like this is literally about adultery. Adulteress is doubtful, adulteress kind of thing. That's a loose organization. You have to think like a thesaurus, just like you do with the Bible. And see, here's Sotah, suspected adulteress. That doesn't necessarily just restrict itself to adultery. It's sort of thesauretical. Topics that are related to things that would be like adultery toward God. Not necessarily to do with sex at all. Okay? Things that are considered adulterous behavior toward God. Like, you know, when you're thinking about something else, or you're more interested in money than God, that kind of thing. Okay? So, to summarize, we got the traditions here, which is at Tyndale, very respectable. The guy that did what we just saw also manages this website. I really suggest you subscribe to him, because this is really the best way to read Talmud on the internet that I can find. Second best, and in many ways easier to search, is this anti-Semitic comeandhere.com, which provided the Talmud to rabbinic traditions, and it's coming from Sonsino Talmud, which you'd normally have to pay $300 to $600 to get. The search engine, if you can search on the Hebrew, is actually more sophisticated in the software, but unfortunately, it doesn't let you do the English search the way you need to, because of the way Hebrew words are constructed. Okay, so that covers these two. Now I'm going to go to the worst. And this was the main point of my video.